Hey guys, Bun here, and today I want to talk about the big nerfs that just got announced and that are going to completely change the meta game. I'm going to go through all the different nerfs and card changes that are coming into the game. I'll give you my 2 cents on if I think they're good or bad, and I'm going to talk about how I think this would impact the meta, what is going to happen to the meta game, like how does this impact the gameplay, which card alternatives are we now going to face, and let's dive right into it. You've probably already seen it, and you're going to see which classes get affected the most dependent on how many of the cards are going to be on the slides. But let's start out with the neutral cards that are getting changed for everything to put everything into perspective. And the first cards are getting School Teacher is getting changed, and Mr. Smite is getting changed. School Teacher is becoming a 4-mana 4/3, so they're not changing the mana cost, they're just nerfing the stats a little bit. The card was completely busted up to this point, and yeah, I think this is an interesting change because like a lot of classes were jamming this. A lot of the good classes were defined by being able to abuse School Teacher and making like having like really good 3-mana spells to be able to pair with this card. And this being at 3 mana is going to change so much. Like you should not underestimate how much this changes. Because there's so many good ways of dealing 3 damage in the meta. You think about Rogue. Rogue has a Discover spell that deals 3 damage. Rogue has Extortion that deals exactly 3 damage. Shaman has Lightning Bolt that deals 3 damage, and even better, Frostbite that deals 3 damage with a humongous upside. Then you have Bash and Warrior if you really want to do it, but even more importantly in Warrior, you have Outrider's Axe that can now cleanly clear this without taking too much damage from this minion and without having to find any extra damage sources. Predation and Demon Hunter, there's just so many ways to deal 3 damage, and there's so little ways to deal 4 damage in a really good way. So I think this is going to be a huge change. I think the card is still going to be decent. I think the card is still going to be playable, but it's definitely a large nerf to this card's power level, making this a 4/3. And then next up we have Mr. Smorg. Mr. Smorg, our little make all the pirates charge your opponent's face, is also getting hit with the nerf hammer, and he's becoming a 7-mana 6/5 pirate with charge, which of course and especially is going to make the Rogue Edwin kind of combinations or the boat combinations that are going to be charging in your face a lot slower. So the burst damage is significantly reduced because you can like combo later and you can combo a lot more awkwardly. So Mr. Smite's getting changed to 7 mana, so there's going to be less Smorg in the game overall, and that affects, of course, Paladin to a lesser extent because as soon as they buff it, they don't really care how much this mana is, but definitely Charge Warrior and other warriors to a much higher extent, and especially Rogue with the Edwin finisher. Having this extra mana taken away from your combo with having like a 2-mana Shadow Step Edwin and a 7-mana Mr. Smite, there's not that many more cards that you can play if you're in your final form. So that really is going to make a huge impact. But let's get to all the big nerfs, and let's start off with the hugest one of them all, the craziest one. Warrior is getting quadruple nerfed. So Warrior, as being one of the strongest decks in the meta, is getting a quadruple nerf. And I think we're hitting all the right cards here. So the first card that's getting hit is From the Depths, the blue card that I've been talking a lot about in my stream. That card is absolutely broken. For 3 mana, being able to play it so nicely on curve and then curve it into From the Depths on 3, Nelly on 4, or like Rokara on 4, having some crazy combinations. This is going to make the Warrior curve a lot more awkward, and I think this is a big nerf. I could have seen them change From the Depths a little bit more, where they reduce the number of cards that are being reduced by a little bit as well, but I think this is a good start. And with all the other Warrior nerfs, I think it's fine to just nerf the cost off From the Depths. From the Depths Finley still going to be strong. Next up, we have Shield Shatter. Shield Shatter going down from 5 damage to 4 damage. Same card as before, just the amount of damage that is being done gets reduced, and that is going to be huge as well. There's lots of cards that have exactly 5 HP. Especially cards in Rogue have 5 HP. Not only the cards from Rogue itself, but also the cards that Rogue discovers. Like random Death Rattle minions have to an incredibly high amount 4 HP. Then you have all the Nagas that often have 5 HP. You have, like I said, some Death Metal minions that have 5 HP. You have the Krabatoa that has 5 HP. So this is not going to kill the card, because it's still going to be good against, like, Demon Hunter is still going to be the best available board clear in the entire game, in my opinion. It's still going to be the best board clear, but it's going to be less insane. And it's going to definitely gnaw on Warrior's power level. On top of that, we get a Nelly nerf, and the Nelly nerf is quite an interesting one. The Nelly pirates, the pirates that they discover, they no longer cost 1, but they rather cost 1 less. And now with the Mr. Smite increase on top of that, if you discover Mr. Smite, you just get a 6 mana Mr. Smite. So not that much to worry about. Nelly is still going to be an okay card, but it's nowhere near insane, nowhere near crazy enough where it just like swings the board after the boat is killed and you feel like you lose as soon as you have to kill the boat. So this is going to impact Warrior a lot, because they're going to have a lot less chance to randomly combo Nelly cards together, just have a random board clear and then smork your opponent in the face. On top of that, from the depths into Nelly no longer exists. Huge changes. Next up, we have Tidal Revenant. That's gonna go from dealing 5 damage and gaining 8 armor to dealing 5 damage and gaining 5 armor. The card's still gonna be fine. I think this will be the least impactful of all the nerfs that are coming out here. I'm not exactly sure what they did, but you really shouldn't underestimate the impact that all of this has on Warrior. Another thing that's going to change a lot is that, of course, Warrior likes to play Mr. Smite and abuse the school teacher for cheap mana discounts. And even though Warrior doesn't care quite as much how big the minions are, this is going to significantly impact the power level. All these nerfs are crazy. And I think Warrior is going to take a big step back from the #1 spot that is currently occupying in the meta. Then next up, we have in our list Demon Hunter. And I'm really happy about these changes that are coming in here. I was pretty happy about the Warrior changes so far, but this was a big one. Carrier seemed oppressive. Whenever she came down on turn 6 and she was like activated, she was pretty stupid. And I think changing her to 7 mana, which is the current change, is going to be very impactful for the game. It's going to make this much weaker, and it's going to make Demon Hunter less high rolly and like just snowballs you out of the game after you've stabilized when they play Carrier. I think Carrier and the 7 mana Demon are still going to be impactful, and they're going to be strong. But I think that's all right. You might still run both of them, and you just have to hope a little bit more that there's no patches. But yeah, the expensive and good plays are going to be crowded a little bit on the 7 mana spot for Demon Hunter in that case. So it'll be easier for your opponent to play around it. And then the next change is the Battleworn Vanguard is getting changed to a 2 mana 2/1. Which now means, and this is the interesting part, before if you had a 1 mana AoE, you would kill the Fellwings, but you would not kill the source of the Fellwings, which is a pretty big deal. And this is a really big deal. This is something that you shouldn't underestimate. Like you had to have you basically had to play a 2 AoE source to be able to deal with Battleworn Vanguard. Because if you didn't kill it, the 1/1s just come back again and again and again. So any class that has easy access to 1 damage AoE will have a much easier time clearing this card. And the first card that comes to my mind when I talk about this is Maelstrom Portal. So if Demon Hunter is still on top of the meta, Maelstrom Portal stonks definitely go up. It will deal with this and it will leave behind a minion. on top of that, Maelstrom Portal is an incredibly flexible card. So I do think that this will be impactful. The same goes for Paladin as well. Paladin could do like 1 damage AoE with city tags, and then you'd still be faced with a Vanguard, and then the board would come back again, and you're basically faced with the exact same problem again. So you're not really dealing with the issue. So you actually needed a 2 damage AoE to deal with this, but now you don't need this anymore. Huge change on the Battleworn Vanguard, these 2 changes. I don't know if this is going to be enough. I think Demon Hunter is still going to be really strong, but this will definitely get room for other strategies and classes that can deal 1 AoE and have a hard time dealing 2 AoE effectively. Mage, next up. Mage change is that the Siren now becomes a 5 mana 2/6. It's not really going to change much about how this thing will work. You will still pop off, you will still make a big board, you will still clown your opponent around quite a big amount. But it's 1 more turn that the mage has to survive with doing nothing. And the mage does a lot of, oh, I don't do anything, I'm trying to be a little bit passive, all my plays are really bad, all my plays are really passive, they don't really do much, into, oh my god, I'm the biggest monster deck in the entire game, what is the mana, I can spend as much as I want, this is crazy. And this will be taken back 1 step, this will be tuned down 1 turn, which will, on the one hand, give your opponent more time to be able to play their answers. For example, if you pop off now as the earliest moment on turn 6, your opponents can always, as the shaman, freeze your board. So I think shaman stocks are going up with all of these nerfs together. Seems pretty impactful, but we're of course going to have to see a little bit how the meta develops and how this can be impactful. Also on 6 mana, I think Pyromancer clears for Paladin are a little bit more accessible and you have more time. The same goes for Smart decks. If you have a Smart deck that the mage is not really great at dealing with, you're going to have an additional turn being able to deal the damage before they can stabilize and then kill you. So you'll gain 1 additional turn to be able to win the game if they have their whole combo together. And if they don't have their combo together, they only can start with this on turn 6 with coin or on turn 7. So yeah, and then they're also obviously gonna suffer from the Discover school teacher being nerfed, because if you play the school teacher for tempo to set up for the Siren, it gets dealt with so easily now. So yeah, that's gonna have some impact as well. Then the next change that we have is Rogue, Wildfire Null, which I think is a pure power outlier for Rogue. The strongest card is now getting changed back to 5 mana 3/5. My 2 cents on this, I think I've given quite a bunch of times before, is I think what they should do is they should remove the Maestro Null interaction to let this card be a powerful card in Burgle decks and not be a powerful card in some decks that just draw a lot of cards, trade a lot of minions, and then, I don't know, play card draw at the start of their turn and play as little minions as possible. This should not be why Null is good. Null should be good because you burgle cards, because you're a burgle deck and you play Swashbuckler. All the burgle decks don't play Swashbuckler because Swashbuckler is a minion and you draw it from the 3 mana draw spell. And whenever you draw a Swashbuckler, you don't draw a Null, so you try to play as little minions in your deck as possible, which I don't think is good. You shouldn't have to thin your decks from minions just to make the Null even more powerful. Anyway, they're nerfing it. It's going to have some impact on Rogue. And the Mr. Smite nerf is going to have a big impact on Rogue, especially on Rogue's burst potential. So, yeah, interesting change that is coming this way. Rogue was pretty good, but it was starting to slightly fall off in this meta and taking away a little bit of the burst and a little bit of the early damage from the Wildfire Null. It's going to be interesting. 3/5, of course, is going to be quite a different breakpoint to 4/5. Thinking about especially cards like the Caverns from Shaman that are all 3/4s, or other cards like that. Bolner, for example, as another Shaman cards. I know I keep on mentioning a lot of Shaman cards, but there's also some Hunter cards where 3 attack just isn't quite enough. The same goes with the 3/4 Naga from Mage or it's a neutral card, but it gets mostly played in Mage and Priest, so this is interesting. Paladin, Cariel's getting changed. Cariel is becoming an 8 mana card. She's still gonna be bonkers whenever you draw her, and she's still gonna feel very, very bad to play against, but at least now she comes down a turn earlier. Paladin hasn't really been in the meta at all, so this is probably not a change that I would have wanted, but it's a change that I'm very content with. And then one last change that I haven't actually put up on the screen is Earthen Scale is becoming 2 manas for Druid, which is going to make it harder for them to stabilize against more aggressive decks, but the slow decks are going to function exactly the same way, even with the 2 mana Earthen Scales. That's why I haven't included it. So, last but not least, I'm going to go back all the way to the neutral changes, because these are going to be now my meta predictions. I think Shaman stocks are going up. Shaman is going to feel the teacher nerf quite a bit, but Shaman stocks are definitely going up. Then we have the priest stocks are going up. Boar Priest loves to see less burst potential in the meta, less early smork in the meta with Mr. Smite, smaller school teachers. Smite can also now kill his school teacher. That's quite nice for Boar Priest. And then, of course, Naga Weak Priest. The school teacher is getting touched, but the Naga Priest really doesn't care that much about the 1 HP on the school teacher, because it can buff it so easily, and any minion is a minion, and that's all the Naga deck cares about. Draw your wig and be happy, and a lot of the early removal tools are getting changed. Especially know if Rogue is a good card, you're going to be able to more freely play, for example, the 2 mana discount Naga and be able to play Wig on it, giving you a 4/4. It's going to be almost impossible for a Rogue to remove this before it snowballs the game. So yeah, Priest stocks are going up, Shaman stocks are going up, Warrior stocks are definitely going down. Maybe with less burst, we might actually even say a Warlock or two. Since Warlock's not getting hit by any of the nerfs. But this one, we're probably going to have to wait out and see. But like I said, biggest winners of this patch, in my opinion, is Shaman. I think Rogue is also a winner of this patch, more or less. And then I think the biggest 2 winners are Shaman and Priest. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening a little bit to my thoughts on this current patch. If you like this, leave a comment below, like this video, and of course subscribe. I'm putting up more and more guides each day. I'll see you back on stream, and let me know what you think about these changes. What would you have liked to see differently, and what other changes you like the most.